you don't mind, I'm going to spend a little time in the audience. For those that don't know me, my aspiration in life was to be a rock and roll star. And as you can tell, politics has nothing to do with that. But I'm kind of the, when you go to the concert and you see the warm-up acts, so I'm kind of the warm-up act in the band world, but also in gaming. We have some outstanding speakers this afternoon. Andres Weigand, who's the chief scientist for Amazon, is with us. Had a chance to spend time with him today and yesterday talking about his vision and his feelings about data into the future. Also, immediately following my warm-up for the rest of the day, Jeff Freeman, a great friend of mine, new president and CEO of the American Gaming Association, is with us. So again, I want to say thank you very much for allowing me to be here. To my friends at Clarion, I was talking to Julian. Where's Julian? I don't know if he's in the tent, but many of you know Julian. He was telling me that this EiG started 12 years ago, and ties were not welcome. And he explained about how he and Sue Schneider and a bunch of folks started the EiG in a hotel here in Barcelona. But now I look around the room, there still aren't many ties, but EiG has come a long way. So my deep gratitude to Clarion, Eva, Sylvia, and team. Kate's here. We're looking forward to an outstanding show. Thank you very much. Okay, a little bit about my background before I get into some of the drivers in this regulated market. I'm a former mayor, not that it matters, but it kind of helped mold me in my perspective of looking at projects from business to government. I was a state senator in the state of Nevada. We started, of course, in the early 2000s looking at internet gaming. So I have experience from a legislative perspective in the state of Nevada as a state senator. Most recently, I was elected and currently am retired as a member of the United States Congress. So my perspective is really not that as a professional in the gaming business, although I've been 35 years in Nevada. I've grown up with many of the leaders in that community and in the gaming business. I'm a huge fan of who we are in the industry, but I'm not an insider when it comes to knowing the science and technology. I'll leave that for the experts. But I want to give you just a little bit of history of Nevada and how that fits into where we are today. You know, in the early 90s, well, we go back to the 70s in Las Vegas. We were told we weren't going to survive as an industry. It was temporary. You can't trust gaming. They're investing, but they're going to be out of business. All the same arguments, actually, that we hear today about gaming. But that was in the 70s. Then in the 80s, Wall Street said the same thing. You know, the experts on gaming said, Las Vegas is not going to survive, too many obstacles, too many problems. Well, guess what? Las Vegas continued to grow, and it continued to mature and continued to be a leader in the gaming business. We're going to fast forward a little bit into the early 90s. I think many of you remember we tried to become the Disneyland of gaming. We brought in theme parks, and guess what? It worked. We attracted families and kids, and that's always really special to have families and kids, but it didn't do a whole lot for us when it comes to expanding our gaming interests. So another milestone in Las Vegas was we decided in the early 90s that we really didn't care about conventions, believe it or not, but there was a groundswell within the community that we needed to do something different, because at the same time, we were looking at the expansion of gaming into New Jersey, tribal, Native American gaming. So we had to recreate ourselves. So as we moved into the 90s, we literally blew up our theme parks. They worked too well. And we started creating some of the best shopping in the world. We really felt that we had to survive. We had to be different. We had to be something unique. We were a destination, and we wanted to continue Las Vegas's history as being a destination. Then, as I go through this quickly, of course, we moved into 9/11, a tragic day around the world, especially in the States. We had to reinvent ourselves one more time. And we had to decide in 2001 what we were going to be. Were we going to be a regional casino industry? Were we going to be a resort industry? But you know what? We doubled down. I know Steve's here, DeMassey from IGT, so I'm going to steal double down. We doubled down in Las Vegas. And we invested and we marketed and we created an environment that we still think is one of the best destinations in the world. But then we, of course, had the serious challenges of 2008 with the economy. And we have built first-class properties. We realized that we no longer could be theme parks. We did the theme parks, we did all the casinos, the themed casinos, but we needed to add value. So we reinvented ourselves one more time. This is probably the 5th or 6th time, but we did it as an industry that's highly competitive. In Las Vegas, trust me, there's a lot of competition. And certainly there is a deep respect for each other in the industry. But in a time when you're trying to create your own message as a company, in a time you're trying to create an industry as a whole, we came together as a community one more time as we had the 4 or 5 times in the past. And I mention that because some of the factors that are driving this marketplace, some of the obstacles, including some of the challenges, but also the positive side, a lot of that we've experienced as an industry. Now, as you know, in the US, we're not nearly as sophisticated in the electronic gaming world. We certainly want to be, and we're partnering, we're creating relations. But we've learned as a community of Nevada, a gaming industry, to work together. So today, as we talk about what are some of the drivers in this marketplace, of a highly regulated marketplace, I think one of the most important things we can't lose sight of is that we are reinventing electronic gaming every day. We are reinventing who we are every day, and we're trying to decide what we're going to be tomorrow. So some of those factors in driving this economy really starts with the industry. We're investing millions of dollars in the industry, we're hiring the right people, we're expanding, but I want to set aside the perspective of the industry for a second. There are a number of other areas that can be obstacles, but they also can be very positive. Certainly the regulators, and I know we have a number of regulators here today. I applaud you and I appreciate your insight for many years. Andre is here from Alderney, Mario Galileo, I think, is here or was here earlier. To my friends, of course, EiG Burnett, Nevada, and Richard Schutz, I think will probably be here. But do not lose sight. Now, as an industry, again, I'm going to come back to you as professionals, but we can't lose sight of the regulatory side. And I know you deal with it every day because you have to. But the regulatory bodies around the world need your help as much as you need their help. As they're trying to determine in this ever-changing industry, what are the proper steps? What should we be doing next? I hear time and time again that, contrary to popular belief, government isn't always the first, but in many respects, our regulators, our regulatory agencies around the world are ahead of us as an industry. Some of us are using old platforms, old technology, but the regulators are looking for a way to expand into this highly regulated industry that they're regulating. But the one thing that you can do as not an obstacle, but an opportunity, is spend as much time providing your regulators around the world the proper standards, the proper regulatory standards for technology, for the game. And Peter's here with the Gaming Standards Association. They're working very hard to create common standards, not only state by state, tribe by tribe, nation by nation, but the world, to make sure we can create some standards that you can expand your business upon. So do not lose sight of the regulatory side. Another part that I think is more challenging for the electronic business, I look at gaming today, electronic gaming, almost gaming in the clouds. And what happens when you game in the clouds, there seems to be a shortage of times of relationship building with the customer. Now, a huge obstacle for you as the experts in electronic gaming is you have to figure out a way to be more than just an online site. Now, the gaming in the US, and of course our resorts, our destination resorts, they really pride themselves on their hospitality. You have to figure out together, collectively, how you can create a hospitality and a relationship. And as you're building your partnerships with US companies or other companies around the world, I challenge you, you have to be more than just an electronic company. You need to brag about who you are, you need to brag about our industry, but you need to adopt the community, because I'll tell you what can put you out of business quicker than yourself is the consumer. And we have consumer activism around the world, and we do a really poor job as an industry of educating the consumer. I'll say it again, we do a really poor job of letting the consumer know and the consumer activists know how we're doing business. So I challenge you, as you are helping to create these standards, regulatory standards and operational standards, I challenge you to make sure you figure out the retail side of the electronic business. You can learn from the resorts around the world, and I'm not just saying it doesn't have to be the hotel industry, but you need to learn from the major retailers on what it takes. Because if you don't create a relationship with your customer other than a pretty logo, they're going to go someplace else. So adoption of a community. Another part that may be not in your normal dialogue, but you need to become sophisticated in the world of politics. Now, politics again, has a dark side, it has an upside, but you need to become very sophisticated. Now, there are a lot of companies here that have the staff, they have the ability, they have the funding, and they are quite sophisticated. But I can assure you, whether you're in Germany or in the United Kingdom or in the United States, one well-meaning member of the US Congress or the Parliament can put you out of business tomorrow. All they have to do is change one word from may to shall or shall to may. And I know there are different rules and guidelines around the world how you deal with policymakers, but you need to be very familiar with the rules. You know the rules of electronic gaming, you know the rules of regulatory bodies around the world, but I would guess that you're probably not focusing on the political side. Now, again, there are different rules, different regulatory bodies, but there are policymakers up there that are telling the regulators what to do. Richard Schutz, head of gaming in California, we've spent a lot of time together lately, and he shares with me the challenges as now one of the, if not the largest gaming country, California, in the world, from working with the tribal nations to the lotteries to the terrestrial brick and mortar companies. Make sure that when you're visiting to do a partnership in whatever country you are, you need to get to know the policymakers. Make sure you get to know the regulators. Make sure you can support them as well. Now, I want to go back to the industry. One of the biggest obstacles in this highly regulated environment is yourselves. We have a tendency to be accustomed to a game of chance when it comes to our business, when it comes to the way we operate, when it comes to the way we handle politics, when it comes to the way we handle our operations. As an industry, I highly encourage that you change some of that approach. And it's not about reinventing an industry, because it's happening every day, and you're driving that every day. But we have to stop demonizing each other. We have a tendency as an industry to be so highly competitive in a game of chance that at any cost, we attack our partners. Now, believe me, Las Vegas is as competitive as anywhere in the world. But they've figured out through the years how they have to get along at least as best they can. But the demonization of the industry is one of the biggest challenges we have, beyond regulatory, beyond the consumer-driven groups that may be mounting efforts against you. Make sure that you operate as a game of skill. And I know we talk about poker and the game of skill and the game of chance, but above that, you have to operate your businesses as a game of skill. Now, I only have a couple of minutes left, and again, I'm the warm-up for some of the stars that are coming. You know, Steve Jobs, visionary, great guy, and as a gentleman that I keep replacing my phones for losing them or for whatever reason, I'm investing in Apple all the time. But he said something really important, and that's when he introduced the iPad, the iPhone. And being a guy that loves music, he said, this isn't, the iPhone, the iPad isn't just about telecom. It's not just about information. It's about not only changing music, but changing the industry as well. So in conclusion, we are game changers. We're not changing the game, but we're game changers if you work together. You are on the cutting edge of one of the most exciting industries in the world. Now, in the US, we're behind. But electronic gaming is here to stay. You can drive the message, and you're going to hear about it today with Jeff Freeman, again with Andreas that's going to join us. my last comments is that I'm really proud of what you're doing. And you have to remember that you provide an important value to the people around the world, from jobs, the economy, but also you're changing science every day. So don't forget it. Work together. Enjoy the conference. Again, my great gratitude for Clarion for many years of supporting me, allowing me to be part of today's festivity. So welcome. Have a great time. Make sure you get in early tonight because there's meetings first thing in the morning. Thanks, everybody.